Do you pray to God? A short story by Nancy Hilton. The weather was stormy, and the icy particles licked the windshield as the wipers went back and forth. The sound was in cadence with the radio that was blaring rock music. The driver leaned forward and tried to see a few feet in front of his car, but could not. His friend was singing along with the music and bouncing up and down. "Hey man, this music's great, isn't it?" His friend was high on drugs and had no understanding of the danger of their situation. The driver turned off the radio, and the passenger just kept singing and bouncing until he noticed there was no music. "Hey man," he said, "why'd you turn it off?" The driver said, "Look outside. It is solid ice. I must concentrate on driving, and your music and singing do not help." The passenger became quiet as he tried to peer outside. "Wow," he said, "look at all the ice." Pretty soon the windshield wiper stopped, for the ice was so thick that the windshield was frozen solid. The driver pulled over to the side and stopped the car. Well, now what? They'd have to wait for help. The ice and snow piled up. No other cars passed by. He had taken a shortcut, and no one knew where they were. His passenger started to come down from his high and began to cry and blame his friend. "Why'd you drive this way? I feel lousy. We need to do something." "What do you suggest?" the driver asked. "Well, I don't know, but I feel awful." He got sick, and the stench in the car was terrible. The driver tried to open his door, but it was frozen shut. He pushed his friend into the back seat. "Try the back door. If we stay here, we will die." The doors would not budge. They were trapped in ice. The driver had run away from home a year ago and was drifting from one place to another. He never called his mom. She always warned him about this and that, but he got tired of listening, so he left. He had better things to do with his life than to be controlled by her silly rules. Well, he sure learned fast that a life without rules and direction can lead you to the shortcuts. This shortcut was obviously the wrong one to take. He looked at his friend, who was shivering and shaking. His lips were blue, and icy particles had dried where tears had formed. The driver knew he looked the same. He also knew they would die. As the driver reflected back on his life, he tried to think of the good things he did for his parents and others. Unfortunately, he could only remember a few instances. He regretted his choices to live his life without rules. Now it would end so soon. But what could he do? Maybe he could pray. The car was discovered by a police officer the following week. When he pried open the door, he found 2 young boys. The passenger was frozen with fear upon his face. The driver was frozen in prayer. The policeman shook his head. He was witnessing this more and more. He wished that these kids could learn to lead wholesome lives before it was too late. How sad that these lives had been cut short. As the police lifted the kids out of the car, the sun came out and reflected on their icicle tears.